Your budgeting app isn't failing because math is hard. It's fixing a version of you that doesn't exist. Why do we keep downloading color-coded apps just to delete them 3 weeks after starting the process? We obsess over categorizing every single dollar, yet the numbers never seem to align with our true intentions. Many professionals attempt financial fixes using complex spreadsheets and tracking tools that eventually collect digital dust. You might think your bank balance is simply a result of basic addition and subtraction errors. But have you considered that your bank balance is actually a mirror of your own identity? Most financial spending problems are identity problems rather than failures in mathematical incompetence or logic. A budgeting app is like a treadmill. It only works if the user believes they are an athlete. Without an intentional identity shift, you are just performing a role that your brain eventually rejects. Your inner financial thermostat is set to a specific level, pulling you back to your old spending habits. When you try to save without changing your self-image, you trigger a powerful sense of cognitive dissonance. This internal conflict creates massive stress, flooding your system with the heavy weight of brain chemistry like cortisol. We blame a lack of discipline, but we are actually fighting our own internal psychological infrastructure. True wealth building requires much more than just knowing where your money goes every single month. It requires building the confidence and security needed to finally accumulate significant walking away money. If you view yourself as someone who is always broke, your brain will find ways to spend. The math is the easiest part of the equation, yet it is where everyone starts and finishes. We must acknowledge that tracking expenses is merely a symptom of the cure, not the cure itself. You cannot budget your way out of a self-perception that is fundamentally broken and misaligned. Your financial reality is an external manifestation of the person you believe yourself to be today. Before we can fix the numbers, we have to fix the software running inside our own minds. The habits that keep you stuck are deeply wired into how you perceive your place in the world. Changing your bank account requires a fundamental change in how you define your own value and success. We need to stop looking at the spreadsheets and start looking at the person holding the pen. Let's explore why your brain fights your budget and how to finally win that internal war. We have been told that wealth is about willpower, but the truth is that willpower is a lie. To understand why your budget keeps breaking, you must examine the biological hardware running the entire show. Most financial advice treats your brain like a calculator, ignoring the complex systems that actually drive decisions. Have you noticed how easy it is to save in the morning, yet nearly impossible at night? This happens because willpower is like a physical muscle that gets tired after only a few reps. By the time your workday ends, that mental muscle is exhausted and ready to give out completely. Relying on a tired muscle to build wealth is why most people find themselves stuck in cycles. Your psychological infrastructure was not built to sustain a marathon of constant, grueling self-denial and strict restriction. While willpower eventually fails, there is another force in your mind that never experiences any exhaustion. Your core identity remains constant, working silently in the background without ever needing a single moment's rest. This is the critical difference between fighting against yourself and moving with the flow of your nature. Even when we desperately want to change, we tend to act in alignment with our perceived identity. If you see yourself as someone who is always broke, your brain will subconsciously create that reality. This internal tug-of-war creates a specific type of psychological discomfort known as cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance acts like a security guard, kicking out any behavior that does not look like you. When you try to save while feeling poor, your brain senses a major conflict and triggers stress. This clash in your psychological infrastructure releases cortisol, making the act of saving feel genuinely painful. Your financial thermostat is set to a certain level, and your brain fights to keep you there. Every time you try to exceed that internal limit, your brain's defense mechanisms work to pull you back. It is not a lack of discipline, but a biological drive to maintain a consistent self-perception. If you act rich while feeling broke, your brain will literally fight you to maintain the status quo. To achieve walking away money, you must stop fighting your biology and start rewriting your internal code. Changing your habits without an identity shift is like painting a house that is currently on fire. The real work is not found in the spreadsheet, but in the deep layers of your cognitive architecture. We must bridge the gap between who you are now and the person who naturally builds wealth. Have you ever felt a strange physical tightening in your chest when you try to spend less money? This isn't just a lack of discipline. It's your brain actively fighting against your own financial goals. Even when we want to change, we instinctively act in alignment with our perceived identity at all times. Think of this internal setting as your financial thermostat, governing exactly how much wealth you feel safe holding. Just like a real thermostat, if the room gets too cold or too hot, the system kicks in. When you start accumulating more than your identity allows, your subconscious mind begins to trigger a subtle sabotage. This internal friction creates a profound psychological discomfort, known to experts as cognitive dissonance. Your brain chemistry actually shifts, flooding your system with cortisol as it senses a deviation from your norm. This spike in cortisol makes the act of saving feel like a threat rather than a productive choice. To find relief, you unconsciously spend a surplus just to return to your familiar financial comfort zone. You might call it bad luck, but it is actually your brain protecting your established psychological infrastructure. Your current psychological infrastructure was never designed to hold the weight of substantial, lasting wealth. When you have too much money, you feel exposed, vulnerable, and desperate to get back to normal. Most people dream of having walking away money, but their thermostat is set much lower than that. You cannot keep walking away money if your internal identity still views you as someone who is broke. Every time you try to act rich while feeling poor, the resulting cognitive dissonance wins the battle. This is why lottery winners often lose everything. Their internal thermostat never moved to match their bank account. To keep the money, you must first trigger an identity shift that makes wealth feel perfectly normal. Stop blaming your willpower and realize your brain is simply trying to keep you in your known world. If you don't adjust the setting, you will always find a way to burn through the excess. This is the biological reality behind why saving feels like a battle against your own nature. Your brain isn't broken. It is simply operating based on the outdated maps you provided years ago. By recognizing these patterns, you can begin to dismantle the barriers that keep you from real wealth. Understanding this hidden mechanism is the first step toward finally rewriting your internal financial code. To trick your financial thermostat, we must bypass the internal security guard by starting incredibly small. Forget the $10,000 windfall. Real wealth begins when you decide to start with just $5. Would you believe me if I said a $5 bill is more powerful than a $5,000 bonus? We are not using willpower here. We are building a new identity through undeniable physical proof. Every time you save $5, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. This tiny financial action acts as the psychological infrastructure for a permanent identity shift in your brain. Most people wait for a big break that never comes, ignoring the power of consistent daily actions. The amount of money you save is actually less important for identity formation than your total consistency. Saving $50 every single month for a year is psychologically more powerful than saving $600 once. One-time sums don't change your brain chemistry, but monthly habits rewire how you see your own potential. Investing just $10 in an index fund provides the evidence needed to call yourself an investor. You stop being someone who struggles and start being someone who owns a piece of the global economy. This shift reduces cognitive dissonance because your actions finally align with the wealthy version of yourself. Small wins lower your cortisol levels, making the process of building wealth feel safe rather than stressful. Did you know that saving your first $1,000 is generally harder than saving the second? The difficulty isn't the math. It's the massive identity shift required to cross that first major threshold. Once you have that first $1,000, you are no longer a person who just survives paycheck to paycheck. You have created walking away money, giving you the power to make choices based on your future. These tiny habits are the bricks that build a foundation for long-term financial freedom and personal security. By prioritizing small actions, you are finally rewriting the internal financial code that held you back before. You aren't just saving money. You are proving to your brain that a new reality is actually possible. Because the truth is, the first $1,000 isn't about the money, it's about the evidence of change. That first $1,000 is the invisible wall where most people turn back and give up. It represents far more than a number. It is the ultimate test of your new financial identity. To a spender, $1,000 looks like a luxury shopping spree or a weekend getaway. But to a saver, that same amount represents the bedrock of their entire psychological infrastructure. This initial climb is actually harder than saving the next $1,000 because of the identity shift required. Your financial thermostat is screaming at you to return to the perceived comfort of a zero balance. When you hold on to that money, you trigger cognitive dissonance by acting against your old self. Your brain chemistry might even spark a hit of cortisol as you resist the urge to spend. You are essentially fighting your own biology to keep that money sitting in a digital vault. However, the specific amount you save is actually less important than the consistency of your actions. Every time you choose to save, you are casting a vote for the person you want to become. This consistency slowly builds the evidence needed to quiet your internal security guard once and for all. Soon, this money starts to feel like walking away money, giving you a new sense of power. You stop seeing it as a potential purchase and start seeing it as your ultimate freedom. Breaking this first $1,000 barrier proves that you are no longer the person who spends everything. Once the identity shift takes hold, saving the next 1,000 feels like a natural extension of yourself. The struggle fades because you are no longer fighting who you are. You are simply being you. This is where the real momentum begins, turning a difficult chore into a permanent lifestyle choice. You have successfully recalibrated your internal settings to accept a new, higher level of wealth. With the foundation laid, the path toward the $10,000 milestone finally comes into clear focus. Once you have mastered the $5 habit, you are finally ready for the ultimate financial threshold. There is a specific number that acts like a psychological vaccination against the disease of being broke. That powerful number is $10,000, and it represents your first major psychological infrastructure build. Saving this specific amount is primarily about building a different version of yourself, not just wealth. Think of this first $10,000 as a mental firewall protecting your new identity from old habits. It effectively stops the old broke version of you from ever logging back into your daily life. This milestone acts as a psychological vaccination, ensuring you never return to a state of constant lack. Why does the entire world look fundamentally different once you have 5 figures sitting in the bank? It is because your financial thermostat has finally been recalibrated to a higher level of permanent security. At this stage, your brain chemistry begins to shift, lowering the cortisol spikes associated with financial fear. You are no longer just surviving. You are constructing the psychological infrastructure required for long-term wealth. This is what experts call walking away money, providing the leverage to say no to bad situations. Any attempt to return to old spending patterns now creates an uncomfortable sense of cognitive dissonance. Your brain now identifies as someone who has money, making the state of being broke feel foreign. $10,000 is the boss level where your identity shift becomes a permanent part of you. Every dollar saved beyond this point feels easier because the internal security guard has been successfully bypassed. You are not just hoarding cash. You are curing the underlying mental conditions that kept you poor. This specific total finally kills your broke identity, replacing it with a foundation of quiet, unshakable confidence. Remember those tiny actions from before? They were the blueprints for this massive psychological transformation. But this $10,000 milestone is not just a safety net for your current life. It is actually something much more powerful that will propel you toward even greater horizons. We call this walking away money, and it fundamentally changes how you walk, talk, and work. This financial cushion represents the ultimate freedom to leave toxic jobs or draining, negative personal relationships. What is the price of your freedom? For most, it starts at exactly $10,000. This specific balance acts as a powerful eject button, giving you a way out of any bad situation. It creates a fundamental identity shift, moving you from a state of survival to one of power. Your psychological infrastructure changes when you realize you no longer need their permission to survive and thrive. This is the practical application of the vaccination against poverty we established in the previous section. When you have $10,000, you negotiate every deal from a position of absolute strength. Desperation disappears because you know you can walk away from the table at any given moment. Think about the toxic situations you currently tolerate only because your bank account is near zero. That physical tightening in your chest, driven by cortisol, begins to dissolve with this financial firewall. With lower stress levels, your brain chemistry shifts, allowing for clearer thinking and better decision-making. When you stop living paycheck to paycheck, your work performance naturally improves in very noticeable ways. You are no longer working out of fear, but out of a genuine desire to excel. Employers sense this confidence, which often leads to more frequent raises and faster professional promotions. This creates a positive feedback loop where your financial security fuels even greater career success. Cognitive dissonance vanishes as your external reality finally matches the high value you place on yourself. Your financial thermostat resets to a higher level, making this sense of security your new normal. You are no longer fighting against your own identity. You are finally living in total alignment. Every dollar in that 10,000 serves as a silent soldier protecting your peace and future. Imagine the freedom of looking a bad boss in the eye without fear of losing everything. This level of security allows you to say no to opportunities that do not serve you. You become the architect of your own career, choosing growth over the safety of the familiar. This isn't just a safety net. It is the foundation for a life lived on your terms. Confidence isn't a personality trait. It's a side effect of a bank balance. There's a reason lottery winners often end up back at the gas station where they first started. But here's the catch. You have to build your wealth, not just find it by pure luck. Would you rather have $1 million today or the skills to make $1 million from total scratch? Most people choose the cash, yet they ignore the psychological infrastructure required to actually keep that money. Built wealth is like a skyscraper with a foundation, while one wealth is just a house of cards. When you have not undergone an identity shift, your brain treats sudden money like a foreign invader. Your internal financial thermostat feels the heat and works overtime to bring your balance back down. This tension creates massive cognitive dissonance, leading to reckless spending habits that sabotage your long-term financial success. Your brain chemistry, flooded with cortisol, starts viewing that new bank balance as a source of stress. You might think you want a windfall, but your subconscious is often desperate to return to normal. This is why winners go broke. They lack the identity and habits required to maintain their wealth. True wealth is not about the absolute amount you own, but how fast you can rebuild it. Imagine losing everything today, but knowing exactly how to generate every single dollar back from absolute zero. That ability to regenerate is worth 10 times more than the actual cash sitting in your pocket. A builder feels safer than a winner because they own the blueprint, not just the finished house. When you possess the skills, your walking away money becomes an indestructible force of personal freedom. You are no longer afraid of market crashes because your value is locked inside your own head. Identity does not come in a windfall. It is forged through the fire of disciplined micro-actions. Every dollar you earn through the process strengthens the psychological infrastructure that will support your future. The speed of your recovery is the most accurate metric of your true financial power and maturity. Stop chasing the big win and start building the version of yourself that can handle the prize. Because in the end, the infrastructure in your head is worth more than any stack of bills. Imagine two people standing side by side, both holding exactly $1 million in cold hard cash. One person found it in a lucky ticket, while the other built it from the ground up. On the surface, they look identical, but their internal psychological infrastructure couldn't be more different. If you take that money away today, their futures will diverge in a matter of weeks. The winner experiences massive cognitive dissonance because their self-image never actually shifted to match their bank account. Without the identity of a wealthy person, they often end up right back where they started. Statistics show lottery winners frequently lose everything because they lacked the habits required to maintain wealth. Their brain chemistry remains tuned to a lower frequency, causing them to sabotage their sudden windfall. Meanwhile, the self-made individual possesses something far more valuable than the paper currency in their pocket. They have mastered the speed of rebuilding, which acts as the ultimate form of financial security. This rebuilding speed is worth 10 times the absolute amount of money they currently possess. When you know how to get money, a market crash is just a temporary setback, not a catastrophe. Your financial thermostat is set to a high level, and it will work tirelessly to return you there. Even if you lose your walking away money, your internal identity demands that you reclaim it quickly. This is the fundamental difference between simply having wealth and truly being a person of wealth. One is a temporary state of luck, while the other is a permanent state of being. Real security doesn't come from the balance in your app, but from the skills in your head. It is about undergoing a total identity shift that makes poverty feel like a foreign country. Every dollar you earn through this process reinforces the psychological infrastructure you are building right now. You are not just saving money. You are practicing the art of becoming someone who can't stay broke. This mastery over your own brain chemistry reduces cortisol and replaces fear with a quiet, steady confidence. Because once you know the secret of how to get it, you can never truly be poor again. Becoming wealthy often feels exactly like losing a dear friend, specifically your former self. Let's be honest about this path. It is lonely and far harder than most admit. If building true wealth were easy, everyone would already be walking away from their cubicles. This profound identity shift can feel like genuine grief because it requires a metaphorical death. You are effectively killing the version of you that spent everything to feel significant today. Letting that old identity die is an uncomfortable process that triggers your internal alarm systems. Your financial thermostat screams as you move away from the person you used to be. Building new psychological infrastructure requires clearing out the rubble of your previous broken self. You will face intense cognitive dissonance when your new actions clash with your old habits. Your brain releases cortisol, treating this positive change like a physical threat to your survival. Leaving your old identity is like outgrowing a suit that once felt safe and comfortable. But the internal battle is only half the struggle you must eventually face. Social pressure from your peers becomes a massive obstacle as you save your first $10,000. Your friends might call you cheap when you are actually fighting to become truly free. This external resistance happens because your growth exposes the stagnation of everyone around you. People who are comfortable with the status quo will naturally try to pull you back. Are you prepared for the awkward silence when you decline another expensive, pointless dinner? Can you handle the weight of being the only one focused on walking away money? Acknowledge the pain of this growth. It proves that you are finally moving forward. Every social sacrifice you make adds another brick to your wall of walking away money. Don't view this as losing friends, but as outgrowing an environment that limits you. You must decide if your future self is worth the temporary discomfort of today. Your friends will try to pull you back, not because they are bad people. They'd pull back because your transformation forces them to look at their own choices. This friction is the final test before you step into a life of true independence. You have crossed the firewall, but now a new, more personal challenge begins to emerge from your circle. The people closest to you might start labeling your new financial discipline as being simply and painfully cheap. This social pressure is a significant obstacle when you are trying to save your first $10,000. When friends go out, your brain chemistry reacts to the looming threat of social exclusion and perceived isolation. Cortisol floods your system as you face the cognitive dissonance of wanting to belong versus wanting financial freedom. You feel a physical tightening, a sign that your financial thermostat is struggling with this intense social friction. To survive this, you must build a psychological infrastructure that prioritizes your long-term freedom over temporary approval. Stop viewing your choices as self-denial and start seeing them as a powerful commitment to personal value. Your peers might see a missed dinner, but you are actually seeing another brick in your independence. Think of Nick's friend who famously stated he just wasn't someone who spent money on stupid stuff. That simple phrase represents a massive identity shift that protects your wealth from the whims of others. It isn't about having less. It is about deciding that your walking away money is worth much more. Every time you say no to the trivial, you are saying a profound and lasting yes to your future. This shift in perspective transforms the feeling of being cheap into a badge of strategic financial honor. You are no longer depriving yourself, but rather investing in a version of you that finally owns time. When the group pushes back, remember that their discomfort is usually a reflection of their own stagnation. They are reacting to the change in your identity, which highlights the financial code they cannot break. Hold steady against the pressure, because your walking away money will eventually buy back your total autonomy. True value is found in the silence of a bank account that whispers you are finally, truly free. This mental reframe is the secret weapon that ensures you never slide back into old spending habits. By redefining who you are, you turn social friction into the fuel that powers your ultimate escape. I have a friend who just bought his third rental property, and it wasn't because of ironclad discipline. I asked him his secret, expecting some 4 a.m. routine or a complex hack for his financial success. He didn't mention spreadsheets or sacrifice. Instead, he pointed to a simple internal identity shift he had made. What if the secret to wealth is just a single sentence you tell yourself every single morning? Is he smarter than you, or does he just have a better definition of what is actually stupid? My friend simply stated, "I'm just not someone who spends money on stupid stuff," without any hesitation. He wasn't fighting an internal battle of willpower. He was simply living out his personal, psychological infrastructure. When he sees a shiny impulse buy, his brain doesn't trigger dopamine but instead creates cognitive dissonance. For him, spending on stupid stuff feels physically uncomfortable, almost like a sudden spike in his cortisol levels. This internal rule acts like a financial thermostat, automatically regulating his spending without any conscious effort or struggle. Because he avoids these leaks, he has built the walking away money that most people only dream about. This identity is like a do not enter sign. Once it's up, you don't even think about crossing. He is the living proof of the identity shift we've been discussing throughout this entire financial journey. Most people see a budget as a cage, but he sees his identity as a protective, powerful shield. While others agonize over every purchase, his brain handles the heavy lifting through his deep-seated core beliefs. Even when social pressure hits, his identity remains firm, resisting the urge to keep up with the neighbors. That third rental property wasn't won through grit, but through the quiet power of a defined self-image. You don't need more willpower. You need a better label for who you are and what you value. My friend didn't need willpower to build his empire because he finally had a label that actually worked. This single sentence redefined his reality and set his financial thermostat to a level of permanent, lasting wealth. I was the king of waiting for the right time, reading every book without owning a single stock. For 3 long years, I lived in a theorist stage, paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake. I consumed every finance manual imaginable, yet my bank balance remained stuck in a cycle of stagnation. My money sat in a standard savings account, earning absolutely nothing while I played the role of scholar. I felt like a fraud, reading about wealth while my financial thermostat stayed set to a broke setting. Reading about investing without actually doing it is like studying a cookbook while your stomach growls with hunger. My psychological infrastructure was built on theory, but it lacked the foundation of real-world evidence and action. I told everyone I was an investor, yet my lack of movement created a painful sense of cognitive dissonance. Are you a reader or an owner, or are you just hiding behind the next chapter of a book? How many more pages do you need to turn before you finally decide to step into the arena? I realized that my brain chemistry was stuck in a loop of cortisol-fueled hesitation and deep-seated fear. I was terrified that taking action would break the safe, academic world I had built for myself. I was caught in a trap where learning felt like progress, but my net worth told another story. Then came the moment I decided to stop being a spectator and start building my own wealth. I didn't start with thousands. I simply moved $50 into a basic low-cost index fund. Suddenly, the math didn't matter as much as the profound identity shift that was happening inside my mind. I was no longer a person who read about markets. I was officially a person who owned them. Just like the $5 habit we discussed earlier, I finally had the evidence I needed to change. This tiny move bypassed my internal security guard and recalibrated my financial thermostat for the very first time. My journey toward walking away money began with this singular micro-action that redefined my entire financial reality. That small proof was all I needed to stop being a student and start being a true owner. This shift proved that wealth isn't about the amount you invest, but the identity you choose to adopt. I had finally crossed the threshold from theory to reality, leaving the safety of the sidelines behind forever. My identity had fundamentally changed, aligning my actions with the wealthy version of myself I had only imagined. That $50 deposit was the small evidence I needed to bridge the gap between knowing and being. Poverty isn't just a lack of money. It's a flood of stress hormones that actually makes you dumber. There is a biological reason why you simply cannot think clearly when you are completely broke. Living paycheck to paycheck causes your brain to be constantly flooded with the stress hormone called cortisol. This biological surge creates a physical tightening in your chest, keeping your nervous system on high alert. Your brain shifts into a primal survival mode where long-term thinking is sacrificed for immediate emotional relief. This constant cortisol is like loud static on a radio, drowning out any signal of strategic planning. Your financial thermostat stays locked in a panic loop because your biology is fighting for its life. Building a financial buffer is the only thing that finally clears that signal and restores your peace. When you finally create a safety net, your nervous system begins to calm down for the first time. The presence of a financial buffer causes your cortisol levels to drop significantly and your body relaxes. This physiological shift builds the psychological infrastructure you need to actually start changing your identity forever. Have you ever noticed how your best ideas come when you aren't worried about making rent? You cannot plan for 10 years when your brain is screaming about what happens tomorrow morning. This is the biological payoff of the walking away money we discussed in earlier chapters. With the static gone, the higher order parts of your brain can finally engage in long-term strategic planning. Reducing the stress removes the cognitive dissonance that once made saving feel like a physical threat. This biological calm allows your identity shift to take root without being sabotaged by your own chemistry. Wealth building becomes easier when you aren't fighting an internal war against your own nervous system. Your bank account balance is now acting as a literal shield for your mental health and clarity. Once the cortisol drops, your strategy finally has room to breathe and your new life begins. You are not doomed to struggle forever because you are exactly 180 days away from a new life. The hard part of this journey isn't forever because it actually has a very specific expiration date. Remember that internal security guard in your brain we discussed? He is finally ready to stand down. Your financial thermostat has been fighting you, but soon it will begin working in your favor instead. Think of these first 6 months like a massive rocket fighting gravity to escape a heavy orbit. You are burning the most fuel right now while trying to break through your old limiting patterns. Every time you choose to save, you are rewiring the psychological infrastructure that controls your daily spending. Science shows it takes approximately 6 months of consistent action for a new identity to feel automatic. During this initial window, every financial decision feels like an exhausting act of ironclad will and discipline. You might still feel cognitive dissonance as your old self clashes with the wealthy person you're becoming. That friction is just the sound of your brain building new pathways to handle your growing wealth. Once you hit that 6-month mark, your brain chemistry begins to stabilize around your new financial habits. The stress hormones like cortisol finally subside as your bank account balance continues to rise steadily. Your walking away money isn't just a number. It is the physical proof of your successful identity shift. What used to feel like a sacrifice slowly starts to feel like a natural part of who you are. You stop asking yourself if you can afford it and start knowing exactly where your money belongs. Imagine reaching day 181 and realizing the battle inside your head has finally come to an end. You are no longer pretending to be an investor. You have actually become one in every sense. The transformation is complete once the discipline moves from a conscious act to an effortless, automatic habit. 6 months from now, you won't be trying to save. You will simply be a person who saves. Your internal security guard is no longer blocking the vault. He is now actively guarding your future. This timeline provides a clear finish line for the intense effort phase of your massive financial overhaul. Every day of consistency is a brick being laid in the foundation of your new psychological infrastructure. Soon, the weight of your new identity will carry you forward without the need for constant willpower. You are simply waiting for the biological clock to catch up with the choices you make today. I am Nick, and I am here to help you finally rewire how you see wealth and worth. This transformation is not a solo mission, because we are taking this identity journey together as a community. You have learned how to trigger a permanent identity shift by outsmarting your internal financial thermostat today. No longer will cognitive dissonance hold you back from the financial freedom you have worked so hard for. We are building a psychological infrastructure that makes saving money feel like a natural part of your life. By stabilizing your brain chemistry, you can lower your cortisol and make decisions from a place of peace. Soon, that walking away money will give you the power to choose how you live and work. We are moving forever from the identity trap and stepping boldly into a true identity of lasting wealth. Are you ready to cast your very first vote for your new identity starting right this second? Subscribing is the easiest tiny action you can take right now to keep your focus incredibly sharp. Join this community of professionals who are choosing to master their psychology rather than just their spreadsheets. Every video we share is designed to reinforce your new financial code and keep your momentum building. Remember that you are exactly 180 days away from a life that looks completely different. Will I see you on the other side of that 6-month threshold with your firewall fully built? Hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss a step in this psychological financial transformation process. Your future self is counting on the micro actions you choose to take at this very specific moment. Imagine waking up without that tightening in your chest, knowing your financial house is built on stone. You have the tools and the knowledge, and now you have the community to back you up. Stay consistent and keep pushing against that old version of yourself that no longer serves your goals. I am Nick. Thanks for watching, and I will definitely see you in the very next one.